Dear learners of Standard 9, it's a very good morning and welcome back to my today's online class. Hopefully, you all are safe and sound at home by the blessings of Almighty Allah. Today, I am going to discuss interior structure of the earth. You know, in earlier class, from the earth's surface, if you move above, there is the including part atmosphere, the space and outer space. And if we move below the earth's surface, we will get the interior structure of the earth, and there are also 3 layers. So let's go about the structure of the earth. The earth is made up of a series of layers. Follow. The earth is made up of a series of layers. First of all, here about the crust. So crust is 2 types, that is continental crust, landmass base, and the oceanic crust, the water body base. This crust, the outer layer, which up to 75 km thick, according to your book, it is 30 to 64 km. So every range here follow, the range are approximate range, few kilometers more or less. Then the next layer is the mantle. This mantle layer is also divided into 2 parts, upper mantle and lower mantle layer. The both are rocky layer. So middle layer of the earth is called the mantle zone, and the upper part forms part of the lithosphere. So follow here, the crust and the upper mantle combinedly known as the lithosphere, which is rigid, and the lower semi-molten part forms the asthenosphere. Here the semi-molten part, this portion, lower mantle portion. And the core, if we move below the mantle zone, we will get the another one layer, that is the core. That means core is divided into 2 parts, outer core and inner core. So outer core, this is the central part of the earth, and this outer part core composed of iron and nickel, and the temperature of this outer part is 5000 degrees centigrade, and the innermost part, where here the iron based substance, we will get the availability of iron and nickel, which are in solid form, and the temperature also here the 3000 degree centigrade. Now I will discuss the layers of the earth one by one. That is, it is very difficult to collect the actual information about the interior structure of the earth and its various layers. And the earth is made of many different and distinct layers. The deeper layers are composed of heavier materials, that means this inner core, outer core, composed of heavier materials, and they are hotter, denser, and under much greater pressure than the outer layers, and outer layers composed of the lighter materials. Now we will know the difference between the crust and the lithosphere. The outer hardest layer of the lithosphere, continental crust, and the lithosphere is the crust and uppermost solid rigid portion of the mantle zone, that is the lithosphere. Previously you have learned that is crust and upper mantle zone together form the lithosphere. And here follow how the earth's layer similar to an egg. If we compare the earth's layer with an egg, follow the shell, the outermost portion is the crust, the white portion, egg white portion, that is the mantle zone, and the yolk, this yellow portion, is the core. So Earth's interior rock density variation and different layers characteristics can be known by various seismic wave velocity of interior Earth. So the geologists have divided interior structure of the Earth into 3 layers on the basis of the velocity and nature of the seismic wave of interior of Earth. These layers are core, mantle and crust. What is seismic wave velocity? Seismic waves are waves of energy that travel through Earth's layers and are a result of earthquakes, volcanic eruption and magma movement. Large landslides and large man-made explosions that give out low frequency acoustic energy. So seismic waves are studied by geophysicists called seismologists, and seismic wave fields are recorded by a seismometer, hydrophone in water or accelerator meter. And in the video clips you have learnt about the fault when earthquake occurs, and from plate tectonic theory you know some plates are moving around the interior portion of the Earth on the layer of lithosphere, and when one plate comes in contact with another plate they makes a fault, and sometimes they come forward with one another or sometimes they may detach from one another. So here the seismic waves are actually the two types. Seismic waves are actually two types, that is the P wave and S wave. P wave is known as the longitudinal wave and S wave is the transverse wave. So P waves is the longitudinal wave, that is the about the longitude mode, and the S wave the transverse waves. It's a little bit curve. So the question may arise, is it possible to know the interior of the Earth? It is not possible to know about the Earth's interior by direct observations because of the huge size and the changing nature of its interior composition, and it is an almost impossible distance for the humans to reach till the center of the Earth. As we know, the radius of the round shape Earth is 6,371 kilometers approximately. So one by one we will start to know, that is, as the radius of the round shape Earth is 6,371 kilometers approximately. So around the Earth center there is a spherical object having 3,486 kilometers approximately radius, and this spherical object is defined as core. This one portion is the core, and the specific gravity of this layer is 10 to 13.6 according to the scientist. Core is composed of some solid and heavy material, that is nickel and iron, and it is about 10 to 12 times dense, more dense than the water, and 2 times than other portion of the Earth. So probably it is not in solid form because of excess heat, and so we can say the core is not in solid form because of excess heat and pressure. And based on seismic wave, core is divided into two parts. We know that is the external part or internal part, outer core and inner core. And it is assumed that outer part of core is liquid and inner part is solid. And the extent of outer portion of the core is near about 2270 kilometer, and inner portion of core is still solid, having 1216 kilometer radius from Earth's center, and it is mainly composed of iron and nickel. Let's know about the mantle zone. The surrounding this portion is known as the mantle zone. So the surrounding up to 2885 kilometer radius from the upper level of the core is defined as mantle zone, and this layer contains heavy metals like silicon and magnesium, and as its upper part or upper layer is 1448 kilometer composed of basalt like materials, basalt granite. So this zone is known as the basalt region, and this layer is also named as Shima because of its composition of silicon and magnesium. Si for silicon and Ma for magnesium. So The mantle is the largest layer of the earth, and the middle mantle is composed of very hot, dense rock that flows like asphalt under a heavy weight, and the movement of the middle mantle is the reason that the crustal plates of the earth move. So for this reason, here we can say this zone is known as the basalt region. And the crust, the upper part of the mantle, is called the crust. This portion is known as the crust. Follow, here is the continent of Africa, and this blue color indicates the Indian Ocean. So here the earth crust is like the skin of an apple, and it is very thin in comparison to the other three layers, and the crust is only about 3 to 5 miles or 8 kilometers thick under the ocean or oceanic crust, which is known as the oceanic crust, and about 25 miles or approximately sometimes it is 32 kilometers thick under the continent, that is the continental crust. According to your book, here the upper part of the mantle is called the crust, and it is composed of various rocks and minerals. It is nearer to the earth's surface, and its depth is the highest in the beneath of continental region and the least in lower oceanic region. So in continental region the depth is the highest, and the oceanic region the depth is the lowest or least, and there is a debate about the actual depth, and this depth is considered up to 30 to 64 kilometers. Dear learners, previously I have told that means the measurement will be the approximate measurement, and the mentionable elements of the composition of this layer are oxygen, silicon, aluminum, iron, calcium, sodium, potassium, etc. So it is mentionable that silicon and aluminum are abundant at this layer. So the earth crust here abundant the silicon and aluminum, and in mantle zone this is the basalt zone, and here the silicon and magnesium. So that is why this layer is called the shear layer, that is Si for silicon, Al for aluminum, and the upper part of the crust is called the earth crust, and lower part of the crust is called the substratum. So at a glance, follow here the major part of the earth interior portion including the atmosphere. So crust or the lithosphere, sometimes crust termed as lithosphere, but actually the lithosphere is the crust and the upper mantle zone combinedly known as lithosphere. The earth crust, which includes landforms, rocks and soil, it is mostly solid rock, is rigid and has high strength. It varies in thickness from as little as 5 km under the ocean to about 70 km under mountain ranges like the Himalayas. So this is the crust. Then this portion is the atmosphere, the blanket of gases that surrounds the earth to a height of approximately 145 km, mostly made up of nitrogen and oxygen, which support life on earth. Then this orange color, it is represents the mantle zone, partially molten rock, temperatures mostly between 500 degree to 2000 degree centigrade, and about 2900 km thick, and the top part of the mantle is the source of magma that erupts onto the surface. And you know in earlier class, that means in standard 6, from the mantle zone volcanic eruption occur. And this one is the outer core, that is this pink color shows the outer core, molten iron and nickel. Here temperature mostly between 4000 degrees centigrade to 6000 degrees centigrade, and about 2300 km thick. And this portion, yellow color, this portion is the inner core. This is mostly iron and solid owing to the extreme pressure, and temperature up to 7000 degree, about 1200 km thick. And the hydrosphere zone, this blue color indicates the hydrosphere zone, the water on or at the surface of the earth, including ocean, lakes, rivers, rain and mist. So at a glance, you have learned the interior structure of the earth, including the atmosphere. So dear learners, today up to this. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay blessed at home.